with Eloy Mendez. Thank you, Eloy, for doing this morning with us.
No, thank you for having me. This is great.
So, as a child growing up in Oaxaca, Mexico,
Yes.
Was it your dream always to be an actor?
Yes. I was about 6 or 7 when my dad bought our first black and white TV, and we didn't have an antenna, so he had all those lines, but yet every night we'll be watching TV. And I remember the first time, in Mexico, we're talking, some years ago, there wasn't a lot on TV other than soap operas. So I pretty much grew up watching soap operas, and I remember watching the first one, and I was like, I fell in love with it. I just kind of knew that I knew that that's what I wanted to do. When, where, how, I had no idea. And I don't know if you know where Oaxaca is, but Oaxaca is the second poorest state in Mexico. And there's not a lot of opportunities, we're talking about education or, just in general, my parents were farmers. So we survived by growing crops, whatever we could, corn, my mom, we used to grow flowers so my mom could go and sell them at the farmer's market. So there weren't a lot of opportunities for us. And it was my dream. I just didn't know how, when, and, I don't know. I'm a huge believer in God and faith, and, He has taken me, to this path, and, I'm doing what I always wanted to do.
That's wonderful. It's a wonderful story there. So right now you're part of C.O.G.
Yes.
Which is a film directed by Latino,
Sí.
Kyle Patrick Alvarez.
Sí.
And he also worked on the screenplay,
Yes.
and it's a story based on David Sedaris.
Yes.
And it was a hit at Sundance.
Yes. Well, Hollywood's been trying to make, movies based on David Sedaris' books because he's really well known and he's really, really funny. So he always said no. And then Kyle Patrick Alvarez approached him, to adapt an essay from the book Naked. And I guess the way he approached it was he gave him a copy of a movie that he directed. It's called Easy with Practice. And it took, it took David a year to watch the movie. And he loved the movie. So he contacted Kyle and said, sure, go ahead. And he gave Kyle the freedom to do whatever he wanted with the script. He didn't ask for approval, nothing. And Kyle was very specific because he said, I want this to be an adaptation of your book, but I also want it to have its own identity. I don't want it to be just like a copy of, what you did. It's going to have its own style, its own voice. So he was able to do it, and he wrote this amazing script. And I was able to audition for it, and it premiered at Sundance this year, and it was a huge, huge hit, especially because David Sedaris. And he was there, so I met him. He was really nice to hang out with, and it was amazing to have a film at Sundance, which has been, a dream for me.
Tell us a little about your character in the film.
So the story is based on his book, and it's about David going to Oregon in the 70s to try a new life. He thought he could, picking apples will be fun and exciting and new, and he went, and we go through this journey where he meets all these characters, and I'm the guy who he meets when he gets to the apple farm, and he befriends the main guy, David, and he helps him get comfortable in his new setting, and helps him, anything from teaching him how to pick apples to, to becoming his friend. And even though in the movie my character doesn't speak English and he doesn't speak Spanish, we still develop a really nice friendship. So that was pretty exciting to be there for a week shooting this with with Jonathan Groff, and and it was great.
Yeah. So you do a lot of projects in English and Spanish.
Yes.
And you do a lot of theater too.
Yes.
So are there challenges for you to go from an English project to a Spanish project?
Well, I grew up in Mexico, so Español is mi primer lenguaje. So I don't have a problem doing it in Spanish. English I do because I've been here for a long time, but still and this is my own problem because I haven't really worked on my accent. not that I'm lazy. I just, I just feel like I want it to happen organically. But
I know what you mean.
I know, So sometimes it's hard when you're doing when I have an audition, with 8 pages of dialogue. It is hard for me to really get the words because I really want to do a really good job auditioning with the language. So that by me trying to do it perfectly, I always mess it up. So I just kind of give up and I just go with it. But no, theater, I was, 10 years ago, I was invited to be part of the Latino Theater Company laboratory with Jose Luis Valenzuela and, Lupe Ontiveros was on the board. It's just, back then I didn't speak the language as much as I do now. And everyone in the group, all the rest of the kids, I call them kids, even though they're my age, they all went to UCLA. They had a degree in theater, they all knew, Shakespeare. I was the only one who did not go to UCLA, and I was part of the group. So it was like a school for me. And it was challenging because these kids had a different mentality, It wasn't, like for me, it's all about, doing it. It's all about, hands-on, I don't have that intellectual side of me because I was never able to, because I didn't have the opportunities in Mexico to continue with school. So they had a different mentality when we prepared for the play. I remember one time we were talking about, the family, because we were writing this play, and they were like, is it going to be middle class, poor? And I remember having this discussion of what middle class was for like 3 hours. And all I kept thinking was like, are you freaking kidding me? I gotta go to work tomorrow, but again, it's a different mentality, and I love theater. I mean, I learn, and a lot of opportunities that have come my ways because I've done some theater, people see me and then they invite me to come to the projects. So theater has been great. It's been, because I didn't go to acting school, theater is where I learned a lot of the stuff that I do now.
I go into acting school and stuff. I'm working with Lupe, whose background was she was a social worker.
Yes.
What advice did she give you?
Well, one of the things that I remember when I came here, I was at home and when Selena came out. All right. I knew I seen her in something, but I didn't really know her that well. So I remember being home, and this is when I barely started acting. Okay, I never been to a movie premiere before. And I remember when Selena came out, it was a huge deal for us. They did a whole special on Univision on the premiere and everything. I remember seeing, everyone on the red carpet, and I was like, one day I'm gonna have a red carpet too. And Lupe, obviously, kills Selena. And I remember meeting
her character.
She's her character, yes. I remember meeting Lupe. She was, one of the things that really struck me about Lupe was how humble she was, and how encouraging, and how motivated she was, and how she won the things that she was doing were for the community, not so much for her ego. It was because she was passionate about it. And one of the things that I, as a Latino, as a Mexicano, that I've experienced a lot in my career is, playing, the stereotypes. And it got to the point that I was frustrated because I was like, I don't want to play those roles anymore. And I remember Lupe saying how she played like 150 mates in her career, and how instead of turning them down, she would actually take them and bring so much humanity and dignity to these characters. So that really clicked with me because I felt like it's my responsibility, So nowadays, because of Lupe, whenever I read a script, and if I see a character that's a Mexicano or a stereotype, I always, I can say no now, but I know that if it's a good story, I will say yes, and I will do my best to portray the working hands of America in a positive way, because these people are human beings. And just because, people think that we just come here to take over jobs, doesn't mean they're not humans, So I do my best to bring that side of it, on the big screen, because it's my responsibility. I went to my community, to my people, and to Lupe, who was such an inspiration for me. First, I just finished another movie called Lake Los Angeles by Mike Ott. Mike has won a bunch of awards. He got the Independent Spirit Award, Someone to Watch by Film Independent 2 years ago, and I'm one of the leads in his movie. So the movie, it looks fantastic. It's all in Spanish. Yes, it's all in Spanish, only 3 characters. I'm one of the main characters. And it's a very, very unique story. Mike has done 3 movies, and all of his movies have gone to like major film festival. His last movie won the Audience Award at the AFI Film Festival. Critics love his stuff because he's very unique, melancholic, independent, you know, not a lot of dialogue. So that's another one. I just created a production company because you know, the opportunities for me, well, in the past now there's more opportunities because I feel like even if you look at TV now, there's a lot more ethnic characters on TV. It's changing so much, but still, I mean, there's still ways to go, you know. So, and I feel like, not that I want to focus on Latino stories, but as a Latino, I feel there's so many other stories that we haven't told.
Well, our point of view. And
from our point of view, yes.
Our point of view.
So, and I've been blessed, you know, to work with such amazing people in the last 13 years of my life. You know, I made some amazing contacts. So I want to be able to work with these people and create projects. So I just set up a production company. I'm deciding which project is going to be my first one, but there's a lot of stuff in the works.
Well, with your production company, you think you want to do more producing or continue acting also?
Both.
Or you want
well,
to
one of my goals is because a lot of times, you know, the roles are very limited, and there's a lot of people out there. I'm competing with a lot of people. So obviously I want to create work for myself and documentaries. So there's a lot of documentaries out there. There's a few projects. I teamed up with a friend of mine who's also the CIO of an investment company, and he's very passionate about now because he met me. He's very passionate about the Latino industry, the Latino stories. So he wants to bring the stories to life. In fact, last time we went to a fundraising event for Unlikely Heroes. They do a lot with they deal with human trafficking, and that's one of the things that one of the projects I want to work on, human trafficking, because you know it affects. Mexico is one of the countries that you know it affects the most.
Yeah. It's much common than most people realize.
Yes, yes, and like I was telling people last night, I said, you know, me growing up in Mexico, you grew up with that. You grow up with that. It's on your face. You see it in the news and the newspaper. You hear it from, you know, neighbors, you know, and it's, you know, you can't escape it. So I feel, again, you know, it's my responsibility as an artist, as a filmmaker to bring these social issues to life, and that's what I want to focus on. I did a movie called Bread and Roses, you know, which went to Cannes, and that was my first movie, and you know, again, social issues. So I was very inspired by all this. I've been very touched by, you know, all these issues. So that's the kind of movies that I want to make, you know, social issues.
With all this passion that I can tell that you have, do we see a future politician?
Well, it's funny because life has taken me, you know, I came from Mexico, you know, 18 years ago with no English, nobody, nothing. All I had was, you know, dreams in my pockets, and God has taken me, you know, to where I'm at right now. And one of my closest friends works in, you know, City Hall. He's the city councilman for the 11th district. And during his campaign and his previous boss, I got involved, and I was very touched by it, you know, because you can do so much. You can change the world, and I feel like, you know, every American citizen should get involved in a campaign, even if it's for a day. I feel like it's, you know, it's a must, because a lot of people criticize the government, and you know, it's okay, but you know, people don't know, people don't get involved. You know, you can change the world by getting involved. One of the things that happened to me about a month ago, I was invited to have lunch with Ethel Kennedy. I grew up in Mexico hearing about the Kennedys, and you know, they were so foreign to me. You know, growing up in Oaxaca, you just hear about the Kennedys and the history, you know, the whole family. It was one of the most amazing experiences in my life. It was so humbling. It was like 3 hours, and there were only 5 people on the table. I'm sorry, 6 people. And Ethel Kennedy was on my right hand side. And she fell in love with me because we talked about immigration, migrant workers, Cesar Chavez. and it was so amazing, you know, and I left the house so inspired, you know, by all the nonprofit work that they do, and that was amazing. So I am getting involved in politics in a way that I never expected, but you know, I feel like, you know, politics is such a different world for me right now. Yeah, but you know, I can't escape it. I'm meeting all these people, and through my job right now, I've been meeting all these people in politics. But what I like about politics is that I'm meeting all these people that are doing nonprofit work, which is something that I want to get involved more. And I am involved. I volunteer for the Union Rescue Mission. You know, feed the homeless. You know, make donations. You know, whatever I can. That's one of the organizations that I help the most.
Well, I think it's always wonderful to have entertainers who have a lot of passion and stay involved with not only with their projects, but also with the needy.
Yes. Again, you know, I think my passion comes from me not having those opportunities growing up. You know, I grew up, you know, in a farm. There were no opportunities. You know, even if I wanted to act, there were no. I had to move to the city. You know, and moving to the city, we talking. You know, I barely have money to eat. You know, there was no money. We grew up very poor. So coming to America, I mean, there's so many opportunities. There's so many opportunities, and you know, as cliche as it sounds, it is the land of opportunities.
Well, as immigrants, we really know how to appreciate.
Yes, and that's one of the things that I experienced a lot too. You know, people feel like they're entitled to things. You know, I remember when I worked in a restaurant for a long time, and I was one of the managers, and having a lot of American citizens come in, and you know, they just graduated from college, so they just wanted a job. They wanted to wait tables, whatever. And I'll tell them what to do, and they were like, "No, I don't do that." And they were like, I would be like, "Why?" They go, "Well, I have a degree on whatever," and I was like, "Wow!" So they just felt entitled to things because, you know, yeah. So that always drove me crazy. Yes.
Well, Eloy, I really wish you the very best.
Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to all your new projects.
Thank you.
And keep us in touch with everything that you do.
Thank you for having me. It's such a great. I'm a huge fan of SeFija, so this is great.
Thank you.
Thank you.